Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And thank you so much for joining us after our break. I don't think y'all had much of a chance to miss us because
we had so much content out there.
I released on a very aggressive schedule.
I mean, we had so much content, which exactly shows you how much we don't put in the episodes.
I mean, so much.
We have so much.
Especially when we play a game.
Yes. When we play a game, there's a lot of extra.
And yeah, if any of y'all listen to the whole game episodes, God bless you.
Bless you. We owe you something. DM us.
Yeah, DM us. I'll send you a sticker.
There you go.
I have stickers. Send me your address. I promise I won't do anything nefarious with it. All I will do is put a sticker in the mail to you. If they're suitable for cars. I have one on my car and it stays on very well, but also great for laptops or
coffee cups.
I was going to say your Stanley cup.
Yep.
You want to make sure that you know it's your cup. You can put a Killer Fun sticker on it.
Exactly.
Just DM or email. Yeah.
Do the thing and we'll do the thing.
Yeah. I'll be happy to. I'd be delighted to. But today, we are talking about American Nightmare. Season 1, episode 1. There's not going to be another season. It's a 3-part series. Part 1, The Boyfriend. It is bad news to be the significant other of someone who goes missing, especially if they go missing in dramatic fashion.
In dramatic fashion. Yep.
And it was very dramatic. So the cast of this is the people involved.
Right. Like this is a docuseries.
Right. Yes, exactly. But the people who were the writers of this, who were also the producers of this and directors of this, have stepped into the salacious documentary filmmaking arena before.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Wait,
so
what did they do?
I'll tell you. Bernadette Higgins, she was the producer on Fear City, which we covered back in September of 2020.
Oh my gosh.
And then The Tinder Swindler, which was like a phenomenon in 2022.
Yeah.
She was the producer for that as well, among other things. Felicity Morris directed The Tinder Swindler.
Oh, okay.
And was a producer on Don't F with Cats. And Waco, Madman or Messiah.
Oh.
So I'm going to recap.
Yes, recap.
So when you're a professional white male and your girlfriend is abducted, what do you do? Well, if you're Aaron, you call the police. Aaron admittedly had a wild story. It was unbelievable, the story he told about how his girlfriend Denise was kidnapped from his home in the middle of the night. And it's understandable that police are skeptical of his story, but they did almost nothing to investigate any leads other than what might lead to Aaron as a culprit.
Yep.
So Denise sends a voice message and confirms that she's been kidnapped. And instead of this giving any credence to Aaron's story, it's assumed that the couple are attention seekers and have unoriginal imaginations because police believe that they're just reenacting the hit movie Gone Girl.
I mean, yes,
exactly.
You know how people feel like, are there more dumb people in the world? And do more dumb people have jobs? I feel that way. But honestly, some of this is because we just have access to these stories, and then we just know. But I just don't understand how you get to be a detective and you don't understand the basics of investigation.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I have thoughts.
Yeah, so many thoughts.
Critics and audiences really love this. They both got A's on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and audiences, which I'm like, of course, because it's riveting and it's relatively short.
It was easy to digest, actually.
Yeah, it's like a less than 3 hour movie.
Right.
But also like broken up into parts that are like, okay, I only have a little bit of time to sit down and watch and it's fine. But I had thoughts while I was watching this. So.
Okay.
Matt Mustard, the detective.
Yeah.
He told Aaron that they were treating him as a victim And he was only in prison clothes because that's all they had. And I'm like, really? This is how you treat victims? 18 hours of interrogation?
Right.
That's how you treat victims?
Yeah, in the interrogation room, right? In prison clothes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So I'm really conflicted about Aaron talking to the police because the way they present this, you clearly understand from the beginning that Aaron's innocent.
Yeah.
Right? He's white. He's a dude. He didn't do anything wrong. And he desperately wants Denise to be found. So, of course, he thinks police are his best option.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting because this is in our country, this is the individual who has the best chance of getting the police to listen to him.
Uh-huh. And it's still backfired.
Yeah. So, boy.
Yeah.
Kind of like sad for the rest of us.
I
Jeez.
literally told my son, if something happens, get an attorney.
This is why they say that is get a lawyer first. And they say it makes you look more guilty. And I get why people feel that way. But also, if you've got something convoluted where somebody's going to have to do some serious critical thinking, get an attorney.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it was clearly premeditated because like blacked out swim goggles and wind chime pre-recorded. This guy's going to take your blood pressure messages that you put on somebody's headphones.
Yeah.
Like you don't pick those up at the corner store.
No.
It's like, but why in the name of all that's good and holy are they wearing wetsuits?
I don't know.
I'm like, did they get like an overnight surf report and they decided to go catch some waves before they... I'm like, what is this?
I mean, that's like a Mission Impossible kind of stuff. Okay, to be fair, I get why the story is so fantastical that detectives were like, okay, because the wetsuit thing, like that's like, okay, what they dove into the ocean from a boat that's docked out 5 miles and then did the superhero scuba moves of coming up to the beach and doing all of that. I get it. You know, I also understand how they might have described it as a wetsuit when it could have just been an athletic jumpsuit.
Sure. Well, I have a few little theories, of course, all of them very unfounded, and I didn't even write them down. I just thought we would talk about them, but at the end. So if you want to hear our wild theories,
okay,
stick around.
So our killer takes are at the end.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. So this made me laugh really hard. So Aaron asked for a blanket because he was cold. He asked for a blanket of the people who were drugging him and tying him up. And I'm like, oh, the audacity of a man.
Because only a man
would be like, you know what? I'm a little chilly. Will you give me a blanket? And then be told, oh, we're wearing wetsuits. We didn't realize how cold it was in here.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is the audacity of a man right there.
To ask.
I laughed my behind off at this.
It's so normal. I didn't even think about it.
It is normal, but like, put yourself in that position.
Oh, I would never ask for anything.
You would never ask. You would never be like, I'm chilly. Can I have a blanket?
No, I would be like, thank you for the cold, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the cold. It's an opportunity to grow. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There we
an opportunity to learn patience.
Yeah, like I need more opportunities to learn
seriously.
patience, but
seriously.
I digress. All right. And then they steal Aaron's car.
Yeah.
And believe that he can come up with the ransom. And I'm like, yes, because the Toyota Camry screams, I have 15 grand just laying around.
I mean, right?
Not that a Camry is not a nice car.
It's a great car.
It doesn't scream that you have a lot of money hanging around.
Yeah, I don't think that it makes you a kidnapping target just by itself. Like,
but I was like, okay, you think he can come up with the money, but he's driving a Camry.
Yeah.
You think he can come up with it like now?
That's the difference.
I mean, that's the
thing. This is not like liquid asset going on.
Yeah.
All right. What else do you think?
And then I'm thinking Aaron must have been quite a drinker because he told the police that there was not a high level of intoxication and then proceeds to tell them that he had 4 beers and a cocktail.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Depends on how long, though.
Oh,
If he had been drinking like since the afternoon and that was like, then he may not be intoxicated.
The way he described it was that Denise got there at like 7-ish with a pizza. And the suggestion was that he didn't drink until the meal. So I get that the meal is, but 4 beers and a cocktail, whether I eat or not, I don't need NyQuil and Valium.
Well, you don't, but I might be able to handle that just fine.
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, like, because people are different. Women don't metabolize it generally as well as men.
That still seems
be
like
fair.
a lot to be drinking, just not like on an evening.
Maybe so.
But, you know.
I mean, it was a binge night. They were celebrating, right? They were kind of like
that's just true.
hanging out, you know.
Yeah,
They were
so
having a
it's fine.
Friday night in kind of thing situation,
it's
you know.
fine.
But like,
But it seemed
he
like a
may
lot
not
to
have
me.
been actually like had physical symptoms, even
This
if
is
his
true.
blood alcohol was a little
Right.
was elevated, you
Right.
know. Like he may not have been like incapacitated by any
Oh,
stretch.
no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like-
mean, I get that not everybody is the lightweight that I am.
And you cheers. You are a lightweight, and we love you for it.
I am a lightweight.
And I have a liver
I
of
know.
steel, and I don't
You
know where it
do.
came from. I don't know where it came from.
You and my husband.
I just, yeah. But I drink slow. I do. And I typically have a lot of water in my drink. That was
That is-
see? Okay.
Man.
My mama gave me a tip when I was younger. Always cut it with water. And it does not hit you the same way.
No.
And it's like, oh, she is not wrong, actually.
No.
Yeah. So
Here's a pro tip. So if you know you're going to have like a event where you're going to be drinking
Yeah.
a lot, if you've ever wanted to do the gallon of water a day challenge, start like 2 weeks before that event. You will not be hungover because you will already be hydrated.
yeah, that's true
It
too.
is amazing.
That's true too.
But so we hear some of these text messages between Aaron and Andrea, his ex.
Yeah.
And I was like, Denise, girl, drop his butt.
I know. I know.
Girl, love yourself more. All right. So I really tried to give Matt Mustard some benefit of the doubt in the first episode at the beginning, because I'm like, okay, yes, his story is bonkers.
Bonkers.
It is unbelievable. He's, I'm sure, doing the job that he thinks he should be doing. And we know that Aaron's innocent and that the people putting together this documentary are going to portray him in maybe a less than positive light.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so I was
right.
trying to account for that in my judgment of him. And then he speaks to Denise's mother.
Oh.
And confirms that he's horrible. We will get to that in a little bit, but he is horrible.
He's horrible. He
All
has
right.
confirmation bias in a full example. Like he is confirmation bias.
Yes, exactly. Personified.
Personified. Like he's his own YouTube video on it.
Yeah. And then I was like, Aaron should have gotten an attorney much, much sooner.
Oh, for sure.
But here's what I take away from this show.
Okay.
If you want to get away with a crime, keep your story really simple.
Okay, we just switched gears. Now we're like, yes, I get it. I'm with you. Yes,
If you
you're
want to
correct.
frame somebody for a crime, give them a really complicated story to tell. All right.
That's a little psyops right there.
Yeah. So if Denise had not returned alive, things could and probably would have gone really badly for Aaron.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the Innocence Project can only help afterwards, but I think that that's like the resource really that would have been helpful for him, because there's not a lot of kidnapping resources.
Weirdly.
I mean, but it's really rare for somebody to be kidnapped by a stranger. It really is.
It is.
So I get it that there's not more of that because it's not common.
Yeah.
But the Innocence Project indicated that like DNA exonerations are only about 15% of all exonerations in the U.S. Those are the ones we tend to hear about. And as of January 2020, since its inception until that point, there have been about 375 DNA exonerations in the U.S. The National Registry of Exonerations since 1989 has had over 3,300 cases of exonerations of people who were, and, there's a lot of those. And, about 25% had confessed, 11% pled guilty. I mean, there are reasons for that, which we're not going to go into, but social scientists and legal scholars talk about that, have been trying to study that and understand that. And they say that part of it is interrogation techniques and things that tend to elicit false confessions.
Yeah.
They tell you it's going to be easier if you just confess, so you do it. Thankfully, one of the things that the Innocence Project also does is help wrongfully convicted people after their release.
Yeah.
Help them have reentry support and therapy, and help them find employments and safe places to live. And if you're having trouble finding an Innocence Project in your area, the Innocence Network is a kind of informal coalition of Innocence Projects, whether it's called the Innocence Project or something or another name.
Right.
And they're all over the world. They can help connect you if you're looking for someone. And then if you're in Chicago, of course, this wouldn't have helped Aaron, but there's something called the Exoneration Project. And it's run by the University of Chicago Law School. And they provide a free legal clinic with students and professionals who want to volunteer, and then professionals who are paid as part of the organization. Cool. Yeah. And it's the best funded, largest, most successful Innocence Project in the country. They might be able to help.
Yeah, that's cool.
To start out with, yeah.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, NSA, we promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity, or something I never thought of.
Is it true? So,
I
mean,
yes.
yeah. But we got some things to talk about.
Yeah.
To help us understand more fully.
Yeah.
So, Mare Island, it's real.
Yeah.
Is it an island?
I don't think so, but maybe it is.
No, it's not.
Okay,
you're right.
Didn't feel like an island.
No, it's a peninsula.
Okay, now that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, no full body of water separates it from Vallejo, the city it is technically located in.
And for all our listeners who don't remember, I'm not supposed to look anything up.
That's right.
Therefore, I can be surprised and guess, and that's why I'm always looking dumb. FYI, just a reminder. Yeah. In case you're newer.
No, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
It's not that Jackie's very smart.
Well, I just like you say these things, and for those who forget,
that's right.
Like I do a good job of not looking this up.
That's right. You do an excellent job, and I try and give you an opportunity to answer my questions in the "Is it true" section.
So that's for all of you who are newer. You heard the little thing. It's all good, but just that's what's going on here. In case you're wondering.
That's right.
Okay.
So Mare Island was the nation's first naval station on the West Coast.
Oh. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. It operated from 1854 until 1996.
Wow. It looked like a really nice place.
It did. And I think that the reason that Aaron and Denise ended up there is because Touro University is there, and they have graduate programs in osteopathic medicine, pharmacy, physician assistant studies, nursing, public health, and education.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. That is the things that they were doing. They were doing physical therapy.
Very cool.
Yeah. How sleepy can NyQuil and diazepam really make you?
Oh.
And diazepam is Valium. That is the commercial name for it.
Right. Basically, be where you want to sleep if you're going to take both of them together.
Yeah. I mean, I know how NyQuil makes me feel, and it's a good night's sleep. I
Yeah.
can only imagine adding another sedative in there.
Speaking to that, I could drink a bottle of NyQuil
And you would be fine.
nothing. Yes, nothing. Caffeine also does not affect me.
Yeah, caffeine doesn't really affect me.
Like you can
I can
switch
drink
it to
coffee.
decaf and it's like
Yeah,
whatever.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. I don't know about diazepam. I've never taken it.
No, I haven't either, but the two combined can increase side effects or just
Effects?
desired effects if you're me, which is how I normally take NyQuil.
Little NyQuil shooters.
That's right. And, occasionally, not all the time, but like if I have not slept good in 3 nights in a row, I'm going to have a little
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to have a shot of NyQuil.
Yeah.
But it'll increase dizziness, drowsiness, confusion, difficulty concentrating. Check for Aaron in this situation. And you should also avoid or limit alcohol consumption. So it may have increased his confusion and things that he had, even if it had been hours before.
Yeah.
Some alcohol. And just as an aside, grapefruit and grapefruit juice can make Valium more potent.
Actually, that's for a lot of psychometric medications.
Yes.
Don't do grapefruit if you're on any kind of prescription that somebody's given you for a mental health, wellness, or psychological.
Talk to your doctor first.
Don't do grapefruit.
Yeah,
all of them.
Just don't.
Yeah.
Any kind of citrus product evidently is can have.
Be, but grapefruit's
is
the one.
Yeah, that's the one that really
you
makes
can drink
bad.
some orange juice and it's fine, really.
Yeah.
In large amounts. Other citrus can be a problem, but in general, it's grapefruit is the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So police took Aaron's blood at the police station, and he told them that he'd been given diazepam. So I wondered, did they test it? I couldn't find whether they tested his sample for diazepam or not, but could they have found it?
I don't know. I feel like probably not.
No, they absolutely could have.
Within the hours that he has? Because he was there. Wait. How many hours was it?
It was like 2, 3 in the morning when she was, it was like 3-ish in the morning when she was.
I thought it was a little earlier, but 2, 3.
Yeah, 2, 3.
And then he was
and
there.
And then it was like 12 hours later.
So 12 hours later. Yeah, because he slept in, he woke up,
right.
And he was confused, and he called him around 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, 1:30, something like that.
So about 12 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the average elimination half-life, according to the Hope House, which is a treatment facility, is Valium is 48 hours.
48 hours.
So
the effects wear off in about 12, but
it
you can
stays
still see
in
the
your
system.
Yes.
Because okay.
Yes. It takes 10 to 12 days for Valium to completely leave your system.
Okay.
So if they'd done a urine test, Valium and its metabolites can be detectable for 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
Up to 6 weeks.
But what about blood?
Blood, 48 hours.
Okay, so that's the 48 hours. Hard.
They should have.
They still should have been able to see it.
Yeah.
If they tested for it.
I mean, did they even test for it? I get, okay, maybe they're like, well, yeah, he took Valium and he's only telling us because if we test for it, we're going to find it. But okay, maybe test for it anyway, just so you know.
I mean, yeah, just gather the hard evidence.
Right.
Obviously, they just believed that he took the Valium.
Right. Yes.
Didn't believe anything else he said.
Yeah. So even they should have even been able to find it in saliva because that lasts about a day.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, but they probably didn't.
They did not.
Why spend the money?
Yeah. So they took a cheap swab from Aaron as well. They took it all. They took all the things. All the things. Can they use that against him based on his constitutional rights?
I mean, if he volunteers it, they can match anything that they find as evidence to him. But he volunteered it, but they also didn't read him his rights or give him the opportunity to understand his rights. But even still, we can match DNA to somebody's trash. And so there's no problem with that. If we have evidence, we can match it to something that's volunteered or legally free to us. So it's a gray area because he was also being detained without really being detained.
Yes, that is an excellent point. You reasoned it out quite well. So the Fourth Amendment does protect your DNA. And so if it's voluntarily given, the police are only supposed to use it for the reason that they collected it.
Right.
So he gave it as a victim.
As a victim to check the...
Yes. So I don't know why. So that they could check to make sure that his DNA was in his own house. I don't really understand.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that
really
would tell you
understand.
something if his DNA wasn't really there. If they couldn't match his fingerprints
Right.
to his own house, that would tell you more about whatever lie they thought he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes a lot of sense. They have to treat it like a victim. He's not in the system.
Right.
Right? And so that's a little different.
Right. Exactly. Okay. That's the thing that we're kind of getting at. So Sally Vecchiarelli for properdefenselaw.com is writing about this. And this kind of came to a head because there was a woman who voluntarily gave her DNA for a rape kit. And then they used that to connect her to a felony property offense.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a gray area.
Yeah, well, it's actually not because that was improper use. She shouldn't have been put in CODIS, the combined DNA index system.
Because she was a victim.
Because she was a victim. And they weren't able to convict her because there was no other evidence. That was the only evidence that there was. So if she had just been in that place and left some DNA, doesn't mean that she committed the crime. Right. So because
that makes sense.
We leave DNA all over the place.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you lose a hair, some skin cells, or, you cough and throw away tissue, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're guilty just because they found your DNA somewhere.
Right, exactly. So, okay,
Yep.
no, that makes sense. I
Yep.
mean, that does feel like a logical line, right?
That's right. If they want to connect you to a crime, they need to get a warrant to gather further DNA evidence against you.
Right. So they ran her DNA without the warrant, without all that stuff. It's not like she had a warrant out. And then because she was in the hospital, it was like, oh, hey,
Right.
BOLO activated. And then they got a warrant and then they were able to run it.
Right.
It's like she came in as a victim, gave her DNA.
Right.
There was no warrant out for her.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
They ran it without any kind of...
Yes, they connected her to it after the fact.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that
like,
makes sense. Ooh. And so for the same reason, yeah, Aaron, they should not. I mean, they should not use it in that way.
Right. Exactly. And you have to be careful about consumer genetic testing services, about how they use it. They can't provide it to law enforcement without your knowledge, but it's in their terms of service.
Yeah.
So you should know, I mean, this is how they caught the Golden State Killer.
Right. Hello.
That familial DNA is how they ended up with him.
Yep.
They can collect your DNA without consent if you're arrested for a felony or some serious misdemeanor. And if you are not charged, you should get an expedited expungement done of your DNA from the CODIS database.
There you go.
So that that can't go against you in the future.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
So, and police had Aaron's phone, right? And he told them that that's how the kidnappers were communicating with him.
Right.
I mean, they must have checked it at least to discredit his story, if not confirm it, right?
I mean,
right?
They did nothing though.
They did.
They did nothing.
They did nothing. I want to use more colorful language.
Yeah, me too.
But they did nothing. They had him for 18 hours. He told them. They never even looked at his phone. He told them that the kidnappers would be contacting him by email and phone call, and they put his phone in airplane mode.
Yeah, I mean,
Airplane mode.
Yes, let's say lots of colorful words, and then we'll bleep it out.
They did call.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, and then in Denise's I'm Alive voice recording that she shared, she gave some information so that we would know that it was not pre-recorded.
Right.
And one of those things was a plane crash in the Alps. Did you remember this? You like your phone. You like your plane crashes. I mean, not that you like them, but you're interested by them.
I really love air disasters, and I watch it a lot. And like, I have it recorded, so like I have all the seasons. I kind of remembered this, a little bit, but I don't. I did because I'm not looking. I didn't go look up to see if I've actually seen this crash yet. Because they didn't give enough information, because a plane crashing in the Alps is, well, unfortunately to say, not exactly a solitary event.
No.
So that's a hard area to fly in. That's just a hard area to fly in.
Well, it's especially hard when the co-pilot of the Germanwings flight that crashed in the French Alps crashed it intentionally.
Oh, it's that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm like, yes, I know that one. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to guess how long the drive is from Vallejo to Huntington Beach, California?
God, no. God, that's so big. I don't know.
Okay. It's about a little under 7 hours. That's a long drive. He drove her a long way.
Yeah. That's a long way.
That's a long way to be driven when you're kidnapped.
I mean, you can't get out of Texas in that time frame, but...
Right. But Texas and California are big states.
Giant.
Yes. And you can get out of California. But he just happened to be going down the coast.
Okay, can I just say, even his little cabin in the woods, I'm like, that is nice. Mm-hmm. God, I get people why they want to live there.
It's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous.
So pretty.
All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. Psychology break.
Like we haven't already been there before.
I mean, for real. All right. So we've already mentioned Aaron wanted to get back together with his ex.
Oh, yes.
This is a bad idea.
It was a bad idea.
It was a bad idea for him. Yeah. Because she wasn't a great girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it's a bad idea for most people, according to stylists.
Okay. I have to agree with that.
Yeah. So the reason people usually want to get back together with an ex is because when they break up with somebody, they have lost their sense of self. And they are trying to recapture that sense of self that relationship evoked.
Yeah.
It was probably codependent. So if you're putting your ex's feelings, desires, and their overall sense of well-being ahead of your own needs, that is how you end up feeling like that is part of yourself as well, because you've really put that together, and that's not a great place to be. And even in long-term relationships, this happens, and not because anybody's nefarious. It's really just a kind of a normal thing that happens because you spend so much of your life and so much of your time kind of identifying yourself as part of this unit. That you lose some of your sense of self. And really that research shows that we thrive when we're autonomous. And so even if you're in a long-term relationship, you should find things that are just for you. Like, making a podcast.
Yeah, like making a podcast.
Yeah. And that if you get back together with your ex, even for just one night, it really makes getting over them much more difficult.
No, you need to Taylor Swift that.
Yeah, clean break.
We are never, ever getting back together.
That's right.
That's where it's at. It is true, but we teach people relationships poorly.
Yeah.
We teach people always think of the other person first. That doesn't necessarily mean to the neglect of your needs. It is a very delicate balance to teach the ideals of sacrifice and being very thoughtful and working together while also managing your own needs, protecting yourself, and and maybe it's kind of our individualism that has like spurred this, because in our culture we don't rely on the broader community.
Right.
So our relationship has a lot more tasks assigned to it that would have been assigned to other communities. So relationships by and large just have to do more work for us than they would have in the past.
Right.
And
That's
so that's
fair.
something that you can think about. Like if you're like, well, you get lost in these relationships, you really shouldn't. They might be a best friend, but you don't need just like best friend that you're partnered with, right? Like you need other people in your lives, not a whole lot. It can be a very small group, but you need at least one friend who is a best friend who is very close. It's not your spouse, right?
Yeah,
they're also
good.
not your therapist. They're not your mom, right? Like, so it's hard, Did you see my story?
Yes. I'm so laughing at that.
John
Yes.
Acuff, we give you a shout out because I shared that thing you posted about he doesn't want a wife, he wants a mom, and I lost it.
Getting married and gonna fix Greg.
He
He wants a new mom, not a wife. I was like, oh, that was so funny. That was so funny.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It's hilarious. It's snort level.
I did laugh out loud. I mean, really hard.
Way to go, John.
Yep. So remember when I said that Matt Mustard proved himself to be horrible when he spoke to Denise's mom?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what he said. He told Jane, Denise's mom, that women who are victims of sexual assault or childhood sexual assault pretend to have it happen again so they can relive the thrill of it.
Bullshit. Bleep it.
Yeah.
BS. Total BS.
Yeah. So there is some really old research that suggests that victims may completely unconsciously put themselves in positions in relationships that are detrimental. There's no reliving the thrill of it.
That's the point. The building for childhood abuse, building neural pathways that taught you your love map, right? Is what we call it. But that built new like worldview schemas that were not solid. Yes, may skew you to certain relationships in the future if you haven't addressed it and changed it and realized, oh, that is not love, because even though you kind of grow to know that in your head, like on a test, you would know it and you would fill in the right bubble, in your life, you kind of make choices based on those neural pathways and things. And so you might do what you don't want to do. And so, yes, but not going to relive who is this serial killer and why is there not a show about him? That's some serial killer stuff, reliving the thrill. Shh. Right? Am I right? Yo, you're thinking about that. Do you have some thoughts about that?
About what to say it and all.
About the detective having a past.
Oh yeah. We'll talk about that. That's kind of in my nebulous.
Okay, because that kind of statement. Come on, where's your trophies?
Yeah. So you basically covered.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah.
Basically, it's very unconscious.
I should get this
that
right.
You're. Yeah. I mean, I knew you would, but I don't need to talk about. There is an article in Psychiatric Clinics of North American Journal from 1989.
Yeah.
I mean, we've known this since the 80s that people unconsciously repeat some of these mistakes, that they confuse love and pain because they haven't made good connections, and they did basically. I mean, but who got therapy in the 80s? Freaking nobody. This is why they did so much cocaine.
I know.
Because they weren't going to therapy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no.
Unfortunately, however, victims of sexual assault are much more likely to be victims again.
Yes, it does. It's a major risk factor.
And yes, it is. And it's so awful. And you would think that would be something that would shy away from it. But if you're sexually abused as a child, then you might not understand how to set boundaries that are appropriate. And that's a problem. That unconsciously you can repeat these patterns, not know that you're doing it, not realize that the person that you're attracted to them because they're like your abuser. And therefore, and some women, according to this Girls Globe article, especially if they're abused at a young age, some women don't understand that sex doesn't have to be associated with pain and trauma. And you don't understand the difference between consent and coercion. And we tend not to believe women when they say they've been assaulted. And so, because we tend not to believe them, women will internalize that and believe that they're responsible for it and allow it to happen again.
Yeah.
It's really awful.
It is awful.
Chris O'Sullivan was a senior research associate at Safe Horizon, which is an organization who studies these things, said that women tend to take responsibility for that original assault. They were so full of self-blame and shame from the original assault that they felt they were unable to act on their own behalf during later sexual assault victimization. And he said that no matter what, it was never the victim's fault. Never, ever. Matt Mustard, it's never, ever the victim's fault.
Right. Ever.
Not good. Makes me mad. Makes me so mad. I know. God, I hate this man.
I tried to hold some space for him, but he lost it very quickly.
Yes. Denise's proof of life recording was discounted because she was too calm.
I was like, what?
So Russell Schilling was a former Navy aerospace experimental psychologist and the chief scientific officer at American Psychology Association. Talked about why some people are really good at it and that most people tend to move really slowly in high stakes circumstances, which I think is actually what was going on with her, was she was shutting down in order to protect herself. Yeah. And that's why she was able to sound so really calm, is because she wasn't really reacting to the situation as it was.
Yeah, shut down.
She had really completely shut down. And that some people, when you have people who are in crisis environments on a regular basis, you want to train them to follow a checklist so that they're able to just kind of mechanically do it, and that's good for it. And but he did say that sometimes that's not great because, for example, when he and his family go somewhere, they make plans about where are the nearest exits, how many people are in the crowd, how do we get out if there's something. He's like, sometimes it impairs your quality of life.
I mean, yeah, that can. If you're weirdly obsessive about it.
Right. Which it seems like he is because he recognizes it because, also a psychologist.
Right. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
People study psychology sometimes because they need it themselves.
Well, it's true. But also the more you study psychology, the more self-aware you become. And then you can't help but see it.
It's a snake eating its tail.
A little bit. Because sometimes.
And then you learn about it and then you realize you need it. And then you learn more about it.
Or you didn't know you needed it. You were just interested in it. Then you learn about it. Then you learn about yourself. And then it's a whole other cycle.
That's right.
But I can't help but think okay, so fight, flight, freeze. Yeah. Right? Fight, flight, freeze. So fight or flight, that was kind of the original. Now we know it's fight, flight, freeze, like deer in headlights thing. Well, now there's debate as whether fawn is appropriate to add, because this idea of fawning is to become extremely appeasing and de-escalate a situation to make yourself adorable in such a way that whatever negative thing is happening will subside, that the feelings will change.
That you aren't the target?
Yes, to move the target away from you. Yes. So, some people say fight, flight, freeze, or fawn because in a response to threat, a lot of people will fawn. But then people fawn a lot when they have a background of trauma. because it's a learned trauma response to de-escalate, to fawn, to go overboard in trying to be very sweet and helpful and, all of these kinds of things. And so that learned response might interfere with this idea of the fight or flight. It's like, okay, you might fawn in fight or flight because you learned it in trauma.
Ooh.
Right. So it might be something that's more, might be like people are still, this research is still coming and people have different ideas, but that that fawn might not be an actual like response, like that's in like a natural kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's one of them that becomes natural for those who had trauma.
Oh, and there are enough of us who have trauma that it's widely seen.
Yes.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
Yay.
So she might have been fawning.
Okay.
She might have been calm because she disassociated and she shut down, or she might have been in a fawning place.
That makes sense since she had been assaulted as a child.
Yeah.
But people with anxiety may be particularly well suited to handling a crisis situation.
Yeah, because they'll shut down, disassociate, and then it'll hit them later. Yay!
Let's see. So Melissa Pendinka wrote an article for Mike, and she admits that she has generalized anxiety disorder. And she spent some time talking to a professor at Stanford Medicine, Sarah Adler. She's an associate professor in psychiatry and behavioral science. And that, simply put, those of us with anxiety disorders often perceive harmless situations as if they were threats and respond accordingly at a psychological level. As a result, when faced with a legitimate crisis, all of those psychological responses that you have in a day are put to good use. I'm like, oh, yeah. There we go. Because your amygdala is always on the lookout for danger. And for most people, your prefrontal cortex says to your amygdala,
you're fine.
Calm your jets.
Simmer. Yeah.
It's okay. And then, people with anxiety are bad at that. Their prefrontal cortex doesn't do its job well. And so when you have an actual threat in front of you, you're like ready to go. That's right. So of course, not everybody with anxiety disorders is great in a crisis. Right. It all depends on if your anxiety disorder is debilitating or if you have too few coping skills, things like that. Those are things that can affect it. But, I'm like, oh, there's got to be an upside.
There's got to be an upside to this.
Real life.
Okay.
All right. So police really squandered the first hours of Denise's abduction.
I know, like doing nothing. Nothing
at all. Really, they did do some things. They did go to the house and, try to preserve evidence. But really, they were just looking for things that pointed to Aaron. Right. And then they lied to him about what they found. They did try and talk to the neighbors, but it was the middle of the night. They were young working professionals. They didn't know their neighbors well. She didn't yell. Probably because she had a trauma response. They're mainly talking in this article from ABC News about child abductions. And they said stranger kidnappings are just exceedingly rare.
Yeah, they're
really
rare.
Really, really rare. But when it does happen, people are murdered, usually within hours, sometimes days. I mean, they were looking for a body. They were never looking for her alive.
Nope.
They never went looking for his car. I don't really understand the whole situation. He said she was taken in his car.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, we don't. That is the one issue with the docuseries. We don't know if they put a bolo out. We don't know if what they did to contact and spread the word, or whatever normal things that they do. You know?
But I mean, they took his car and then they moved her to a different vehicle. They should have found his car somewhere. That would have been given at least some. It was just really mishandled.
It was.
Because of incidents like this, trust in the police is falling.
As a student put it last semester for me, it's been a few years.
Yeah.
It's been a rough few years.
Yeah, it has been a rough few years. And really, police need trust and confidence that they're doing what's in the public good for them to be able to do their jobs effectively. And these high profile incidents. So it's falling in the US and the UK, but it's not as falling as fast for us as it is for other countries. So I guess, yay.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I attribute it to the fact that we have a lot of separate police departments.
Sure.
So when you ask a person, do you trust the police? They're going to generally think of their local police. And since that's not one federal unit, right? Like, okay, you ask somebody in San Antonio, the SAPD. But like if they're out in Kerrville, you know, that's the Kerrville Police Department. Like,
Right.
it's different, you know? So maybe there's a lot more trust in these smaller departments that have really built more community trust, you know?
And that's kind of the thing that they talk about is the way police can really garner trust is to give people a voice, treat people with dignity, being neutral in decisions, show that their motivations are aligned with those of the community.
Right.
Those are important things to do. And then they also suggest in this Psychology Today article that police should try to shift from a warrior position, which is where most of them currently are, where they really see as they're like combating a dangerous enemy, to a guardian position where they're trying to keep the most people safe as they can. And I know that they feel like from a warrior position, they're doing that, but that isn't how it comes across to the public at large.
No, I think, what was that tagline they have? To serve and protect. It's in their tagline.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they're supposed to do. The problem is they have to juggle a very awkward tension between coming into a situation portraying trust and portraying community service and protection, while also actually holding the skills to turn to warrior should and if they need it.
Yeah. Yep. It's tough. I get it. I know it's not an easy job.
No.
I get it, but we need to do better.
He's a detective and he was in an interrogation room. He had access to the break room and coffee. Let go of the warrior, detective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get a cup of coffee, simmer down.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and to that end, there is a law professor who writes a blog, and he is anonymous and says he teaches at a top 100 law school, but he'd like to speak freely. So he writes this from an anonymous position.
I love that. I love that so much.
I kind of do too.
I kind of like that's the dream.
I mean, for real. So he says you shouldn't ever talk to the police unless you absolutely have to, and you should never trust them. And he goes on to talk about it, that it makes him scream internally when people say people who don't talk to the police are guilty, or anybody who gets a lawyer is guilty.
Yeah.
And he goes on to talk about his experiences with law enforcement. And what he actually gets most is that people tell him that he's not telling the truth when he shares his encounters with the police. They deny that his experiences are valid, and that he says that's part of the problem, is that people don't believe you. That if you tell your story, people don't believe you.
Right.
And that's part of the problem. And I was like, well, surely this guy is black, after I've read all these stories. Then he says, I told all of this to a friend of mine, a black man who grew up in Chicago. He laughed and said I had it easy. And then he shared his stories. They are not mine to tell, but trust me when I say he was right. I had it easy. To many white men and women, my stories are incredible. To many black and brown men and women, my experience is tame. And I'm like, oh, that's awful.
Wow.
And then he goes on to talk about how he shared some of his experiences on social media, and people told him, this isn't the right time. He wrote this in 2021. This isn't the right time. And he's like, when is the right time? Because this happens every day. That you not wanting to talk about it is showing your privilege. This is exactly why we have to talk about it.
Yep.
So
agreed.
The advice is basically just be really wary. Be really, really wary. And then this mistrust in law enforcement has led to a veritable epidemic of missing women.
I've been attuned to this recently. Yeah.
So this is in Dame magazine. I'm going to touch on the highlights because Victoria Brownsworth wrote an excellent article. And she talks about how, like in 2021, Gabby Petito went missing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We talked about this missing woman and missing women a little bit then, and then it kind of all fell off because things got resolved. And then, the conversation kind of disappeared. And she was like, is that because no women have gone missing? No, quite the opposite. Too many women have gone missing. 250,000 women and girls go missing every year.
I mean, that's just,
It's too many. Too many. And she talks about how perpetrators of male violence are more strongly protected in our nation than the victims of violence. Where did Brian Laundrie's parents think Gabby Petito was when he returned home with her van, her credit cards, and belongings, but without her? Why, when 911 calls came in about Laundrie abusing Petito in public, did police joke with him instead while she cried? I'm like, oy vey. And they talk about how domestic violence affects about 10 million people in the U.S. every year, and that 1 in 3 women will be a victim.
it's really kind of astounding.
Yeah, that this epidemic of missing women is in direct proportion to male violence.
Yeah. Yep. It's a problem, and I mean, trying to fix it is like, it's mind-boggling, but we just have to keep talking about it.
Well, and she points out that a lot of it has to do with misogyny, because when we look at people who go missing, perpetrators tend to be men, victims tend to be women, and that police tend to look at the value of the individual.
Oh, yeah, that's true
so
too.
when you have somebody who's a sex worker or somebody who's suffering from addiction, living in extreme poverty or homelessness.
Yeah. There's a lot of implicit bias there.
These people are kind of seen to be as not worth their time.
Yeah.
And that's really a problem. And so people in those situations tend to go unreported for longer too, because they try and find them without involving police, because they know if they actually find them and they're in a bad way, they're probably not going to actually get any help. So they exhaust all of their own resources trying to find these women and girls who have gone missing because she's a sex worker.
Right. Yeah.
Before involving police. And so that just delays things. It's so heartbreaking. And police departments don't have somebody who is dedicated to find missing people, even if those people are people who are in danger or, people wanted for murder. They don't have somebody who's just like,
that's their only job.
Right.
No. Even when they try. When they try to have different delegation of kind of expertise, it doesn't even.
No, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't work well.
And then sometimes kidnappings are just scams.
They have been.
So years ago, a neighbor of my parents, an elderly woman, got a phone call from a young man. Grandma, they've got me. Please don't tell my parents I wasn't supposed to be in Mexico. She sent them $3,000.
No.
And then she sends them the money and then asks her grandson, whom she thought had been abducted, are you okay after your trip to Mexico? And he's like, I was in Mexico? I was at school.
Oh my God.
It was awful.
It was
so awful. And she wouldn't tell anybody because she was embarrassed.
Right.
She should have reported it to the FBI, and she did not. But the FBI is warning that the kidnapping scammers have taken it a step further, and that if they can get somebody on the phone for just a few minutes, then they can clone your voice.
Yeah.
So
it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it has gotten worse. And that, the alleged victims of this, they're fine. They don't even know anything's happening.
No.
They're going about their daily life, and you're panicked. And so you should ask questions of these people. if you can, text somebody while you're on the phone to find out if this person's okay or not. Ask them things only they would know. Maybe even set up a code word with your family that if it's really you, then you're going to say this code word. That seems like a lot of work and something nobody's ever going to remember in the middle of a actual emergency. But there are things that you can ask them that
it's like having a PIN number for the ransom.
Yes.
Okay, I'll send the ransom, but he has to put in his PIN.
Yes.
If he puts in the wrong PIN.
That's right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
If he puts in the PIN backwards, I know he's kidnapped and we need to call the FBI. Right?
That's right.
There could be a thing like, ransom PIN number.
Okay. It's good to know. Yeah. The documentary overall left us with some unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matthew Mueller, this big spoiler, got arrested and convicted for this crime. But in both Denise and Aaron's accounts, there was more than one person.
Yeah.
And he talked about the other people. So I can see if it was just him who had other people involved, that it could be the voices in his head or things that, delusions or hallucinations that he was having. But both Denise and Aaron said there was at least one more person there.
I have thoughts about that.
Okay.
I do.
Well, should we save that for our theories section?
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay. Our killer takes.
Our killer takes.
Yeah. And, nobody else was convicted. So who knows? Maybe that was a failing of the police department investigation. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Why did they release Denise even though no ransom was paid? Probably because they weren't ever going to get the money.
They weren't going to get any money. So whatever. Yep. They don't want murder.
Why were the kidnappers targeting Aaron's ex-girlfriend? We don't know.
Oh, we don't know.
Well, I don't think anybody knows that. That's not
for
like,
sure, but theories.
Yeah, that's coming. Why wasn't this man charged with any of the other crimes? Probably because there wasn't enough evidence against him. And they got him for this one. They do that a lot. Like, we got you for the one, it's fine. Yeah. And I'm like, really, let's go ahead and convict them for all the crimes.
I know.
Let's give all the victims their...
I know.
But I get it. We don't want to muck up the courts or whatever.
Yeah, but when we can get them and put them away,
Yeah. And then Denise and Aaron, what are they doing after? Well, they ended up writing a book together. Yeah. And she is still a physical therapist. Yeah, she not at the same place that she was.
They left.
They left because they didn't think they could. It was too traumatizing to go back to where they had worked together and working with this other woman. And they didn't believe that they would be believed. They were, because the media,
public opinion had been so swayed.
Yes, by what the police said, that they were hoaxsters. And so they didn't believe that they would still be effective in those jobs.
Right,
so she's still a physical therapist, and Aaron works with high school athletes to help them train.
Cool.
The press conference guy, Lieutenant Kenny Park, is no longer with the Vallejo Police Department.
Okay.
As of the end of 2020, Detective Terry Poyser retired from the Vallejo Police Department in early 2020. Matt Mustard, however.
Detective Mustard.
He's not only still there, he was promoted. He was given the police union chapter presidency.
I saw that.
And he continues to work for the Vallejo Police Department.
And wait, who was the FBI agent that was part of it?
No, I didn't look up
the
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, he still works for the FBI. I don't remember his name. Yeah, but he still works for the FBI. All right, or a lighter note before we get to our killer takes. Yeah, when should you introduce your new boyfriend to everyone? Barbie Adler, who's dating and relationship expert. She runs a matchmaking service called Selective Search. So I'm like, okay, expert. We're using that term fast and loose, but she has some good ideas.
Okay.
If you haven't been together for at least 3 months, preferably 6, maybe not time to introduce to the family. When you do introduce to the family, avoid a holiday.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because it's a lot of pressure, and it also kind of sets up expectation for the relationship to your family, even if it's not to the person that you're dating. The family is like, oh, they brought him home for a holiday. This must be something serious. If it's not serious, don't take him home.
Yeah.
If you're still juggling a few people, don't take any of them home.
No, don't take anybody home.
No, none of them. Maybe do it in a public setting.
Okay.
That in a home can be really intimidating and a lot of pressure. So, go to kind of a neutral location, and that's probably better. And before they meet your parents, maybe have them meet your siblings or cousins or even friends, and let them give you a little feedback.
Yeah.
Those are probably all
good advice.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay, so
you have theories.
A little bit. I think that somebody involved with the police department is involved with the kidnapping. I think
me too.
Yeah. So I think that somebody took advantage of the kidnapper's mental illness.
Yep.
Because he's really mentally ill. And they knew that's why they wore the wetsuits. Because it was added an unbelievable level to the story.
Yeah. It could have been psychological, not even at all practical.
Right. No practical. It was all about making Aaron's story.
Yeah.
And I wonder, were they trying to kidnap Aaron or Andrea, the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend? Or were they trying to avenge some sort of wrongdoing that she felt was against her? I don't think she had anything to do with it.
I don't think so.
But I think somebody who knew her had something to do with it.
You know who knew her? The FBI agent.
Yeah, they were dating.
The FBI agent knows her. And so I felt like there was definitely an inside man, and it's the FBI guy, and he's the one who used this other guy for his mental illness. Oh. And that's why they were targeting Andrea.
Oh, see, I think Matt Mustard had something to do with it
Maybe too. Maybe too.
There's according to the kidnapper who was convicted, there were 3 of them.
Right. Yes.
And I'm like,
so it could have been. And I think it was definitely there were 2 co-conspirators who were taking advantage of the issue that Matthew had.
And they were like, if we get some money out of this, great.
Yeah. Otherwise, and then also, yeah. Because they wanted, I get your theory about Andrea being involved only because the rape situation that would provide this evidence that would be released.
Right.
You know what I mean? Gives some sort of weird evidence that if released, it could have been.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know how all that plays out, but I'm pretty sure that Matthew was definitely manipulated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think he was totally manipulated. I don't think that she really had anything to do with it. She was cold and unconcerned for people but she'd was also feeling really guilty because she'd been really unkind to
Aaron.
It's true. So, she cheated on him.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you don't need to get back together with her.
No.
At
least that part worked out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next time a young man learns of his family's secret life in The Brother's Son.
I can't wait to see this.
I can't either. It's it's really like an action and, a little complicated borderline mob story, but the mob from another country, so it bothers me less. and also really funny.
Yeah.
The trailer is hilarious.
I'm looking forward to this
me
one.
Too, so, anyway. Thanks so much for listening. We know you make a choice when you listen to us. We don't just come on the radio. You choose to spend time with us, and we really appreciate it. It's been a day. Tell a friend, because it's way more fun when you can listen with a friend. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Da, da, da.